The doorbell rang at exactly 8:17 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone, especially not on a Friday night when Emma was finally asleep after a week of nightmares. When I opened the door, there she stood, Katherine Chen, the woman I'd handed my resignation letter to just 3 days ago, the CEO who'd built a tech empire from nothing, the boss I'd secretly loved for 2 years, holding a rain-soaked manila envelope and wearing an expression I'd never seen before. "I accepted your resignation letter," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, raindrops sliding down her face like tears. "But I never accepted losing you from my life. My name is Daniel Foster, and 6 months ago, I became a single father overnight when my ex-wife Lisa decided motherhood and marriage weren't for her after all. She left a note on our kitchen counter next to a stack of divorce papers while I was at work and Emma was at daycare. I never wanted this life," she wrote. "I'm sorry, but I can't pretend anymore." Just like that, my 3-year-old daughter lost her mother, and I lost the future I thought we were building. The first few weeks were a blur of tears, Emma's and mine, legal meetings, and sleepless nights. I'd been a senior software developer at Horizon Technologies for 5 years by then, working directly under Katherine Chen, the brilliant founder who'd turned a startup into a billion-dollar company in under a decade. Katherine had always been fair but demanding, respected but somewhat feared throughout the company. She expected excellence and got it. I admired her from the moment I joined Horizon, but after my promotion to lead developer 2 years ago, that admiration had grown into something deeper, something I buried so deep I barely acknowledged it to myself. When Lisa left, Katherine surprised everyone by showing a side of herself few at Horizon had seen. She called me into her office the day after I returned from emergency family leave. "Daniel, I heard what happened," she said, her usually commanding voice softened. "I'm adjusting your schedule. You'll work from home 3 days a week, and we'll move your project deadlines. Your daughter needs you now more than anything." I remember standing there, stunned into silence, as this woman who was known for never compromising on deadlines rearranged the company's biggest project around my personal crisis. "Thank you," was all I could manage, my voice cracking. She nodded once, professional as always. "Family comes first, Daniel. Always." For 6 months, this arrangement worked. I'd drop Emma at daycare 2 days a week and work from the office, then work from home the other 3 while juggling conference calls and code reviews during Emma's naps. Katherine checked in regularly, not just about work but about how Emma was adjusting, if we needed anything. Sometimes, late at night after Emma was asleep and I was still working to catch up, Katherine would call to discuss project details. Those calls often drifted into conversations about books we'd both read, or her childhood in San Francisco with parents who'd immigrated from Shanghai, or my dreams of taking Emma to see the Grand Canyon someday like my father had done with me. In those quiet nighttime conversations, I saw Katherine, not the CEO, not the boss, just Katherine. A woman who worked until midnight because she was passionate about creating technology that helped people. A woman who never talked about dating because, as she once said, building something that matters leaves little room for anything else. I found myself looking forward to those calls more than I should have. Sometimes I'd catch myself smiling at something she said, and I'd have to remind myself that she was my boss, that I was a mess of a single dad, that there were 1,000 reasons why the warmth spreading through my chest when she laughed was inappropriate and impossible. Then came the Morgan acquisition. Horizon was purchasing a smaller competitor, and the integration of their systems with ours became my responsibility. The workload tripled overnight. I tried to maintain the balance, but Emma started having nightmares, waking up screaming for her mother. Daycare called twice in 1 week because she'd had meltdowns, inconsolable and asking for me. The third time it happened, I picked her up and brought her home, trying to soothe her while simultaneously joining a critical video meeting. Emma's sobs provided the background soundtrack to my presentation. I saw Katherine's face on the screen, her expression unreadable as I struggled to be both father and employee in the same moment. After the call, I made my decision. Emma needed stability. She needed me fully present, not constantly divided. I drafted my resignation letter that night, my heart heavy but my mind clear. The next morning, I requested a private meeting with Katherine. Her office had always intimidated me, minimalist, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle, a single orchid on her desk the only personal touch. She looked up from her computer as I entered, her dark eyes sharp and focused. Daniel. What couldn't wait for the team meeting? I placed the envelope on her desk. My resignation, effective in 2 weeks. I'm sorry, Katherine, but Emma needs more than I can give her while maintaining my responsibilities here. Something flickered across her face, surprise, disappointment, perhaps even hurt, before her professional mask slipped back into place. She didn't touch the envelope. Have you considered all options? We could reduce your hours further, or... I've thought about everything, I interrupted, something I'd never done before. This isn't about hours or workload. It's about being fully present for Emma. She's lost one parent already. I can't let her feel like she's lost the other one too. Katherine was silent for a long moment, then nodded once. I understand. Family comes first. She finally picked up the envelope. We'll miss you, Daniel. You've been invaluable to Horizon. Was it my imagination, or did her voice catch slightly on that last sentence? Thank you for everything, I said, and I meant it. For the professional opportunities, yes, but also for the kindness she'd shown when my world collapsed, for those late-night conversations that had kept me sane, for seeing me as a father first and an employee second. I turned to leave, my hand on the doorknob when she spoke again. Daniel? I looked back. For a split second, I thought I saw vulnerability in those usually confident eyes. Yes? But whatever she might have said remained unspoken. Good luck, she said instead, her voice back to its usual professional tone. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of knowledge transfers and exit interviews. Katherine was conspicuously absent from most of it, sending her assistant to collect my company laptop and badge on my last day. I told myself it was better this way. Cleaner. That the hollow feeling in my chest was just the natural sadness of leaving a job I'd loved. That Friday night, 3 days after my last day at Horizon, when the doorbell rang at 8:17 p.m., I assumed it was the delivery food I'd ordered. Emma had finally fallen asleep after a week of particularly bad nightmares, and I was too exhausted to cook. Instead, there stood Katherine Chen, CEO of Horizon Technologies, soaked from the Seattle rain, holding a manila envelope and looking more uncertain than I'd ever seen her. I accepted your resignation letter, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I never accepted losing you from my life. I stood frozen, unable to process the sight of her on my doorstep, in jeans and a simple sweater instead of her usual impeccable suits, her dark hair falling in wet strands around her face. Can I come in? She asked when I didn't respond. I stepped aside wordlessly, my heart hammering against my ribs as she entered my modest apartment. Toys were scattered across the living room floor, dishes piled in the sink, laundry waiting to be folded on the couch, all evidence of my overwhelmed single-parent reality. Katherine didn't seem to notice any of it. She stood in the center of my living room, clutching that envelope like a lifeline. I've never done this before, she said, and for the first time since I'd known her, Katherine Chen looked nervous. I've never shown up at an employee's home, never crossed this line. I'm not your employee anymore, I pointed out, finding my voice at last. No, you're not. She took a deep breath. Which is why I'm here. She handed me the envelope. Inside was a business proposal, detailed, professional, and utterly unexpected. It outlined a new position at Horizon, Remote Work Program Director. The job would be fully remote with flexible hours, focused on developing protocols for other employees with family responsibilities. The salary was generous, the benefits extensive. You'd be perfect for it, Katherine said, watching my face as I read. You understand the challenges firsthand. You could help other parents avoid having to make the choice you did. I looked up from the papers, confused. You created a position for me? For you, and for others like you. She hesitated, then added more softly, but yes, it started because I couldn't accept losing you. Katherine. Let me finish, she interrupted, uncharacteristically flustered. This isn't just about the job. I could have sent this proposal by email. I'm here because... She paused, visibly gathering her courage. Because over these past 6 months, those late-night calls, those moments when we talked about everything but work, they became the best part of my day. My heart stopped, then raced ahead double time. I told myself it was inappropriate, that I was your boss, that you were going through a difficult time, she continued. But when you resigned, when I realized those conversations would end, I couldn't. She shook her head, frustrated with her own uncharacteristic lack of eloquence. I've built my career on taking calculated risks, Daniel. This is the biggest one yet. She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the raindrops still clinging to her eyelashes. I'm not here as your former boss. I'm here as a woman who hasn't been able to stop thinking about a single dad with kind eyes and a brilliant mind who puts his daughter above everything else. Before I could respond, a small voice came from the hallway. Daddy? Who's talking? Emma stood there in her unicorn pajamas, rubbing her eyes sleepily. Katherine stepped back immediately, composing herself with remarkable speed. I went to Emma, lifting her into my arms. This is Ms. Chen, sweetheart. She used to work with Daddy. Emma studied Katherine with the direct, unfiltered curiosity only children possess. Are you Daddy's friend? Katherine's expression softened in a way I'd never seen before. I'd like to be, if that's okay with you. Emma considered this seriously, then nodded. Daddy needs friends. He's lonely sometimes when I'm sleeping. I felt my face flush as Katherine's eyes met mine over Emma's head, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I had a bad dream, Emma continued, burying her face against my neck. Do you want to tell me about it? I asked, rubbing her back. She nodded against my shoulder. The monster came back. Katherine took a step toward the door. I should go. We can discuss the proposal another time. No. Emma's head shot up. Don't go. Daddy makes hot chocolate when I have bad dreams. You can have some too. Katherine looked to me, clearly unwilling to intrude but equally reluctant to leave. In that moment, seeing her uncertainty, this woman who commanded boardrooms and made million-dollar decisions without blinking, something shifted inside me. Stay, I said. Please. We make pretty good hot chocolate. 20 minutes later, the three of us sat at my small kitchen table, mugs of hot chocolate before us. Emma, nightmare forgotten, was chattering away to Katherine about her favorite stuffed animals and how Daddy sometimes burned the pancakes but they still tasted good. Katherine listened with genuine interest, asking questions and smiling in a way that transformed her face. Gone was the intimidating CEO. In her place was a woman with warm eyes and a gentle laugh who seemed completely at ease with a chatty 3-year-old. When Emma finally began to yawn again, I carried her back to bed. She insisted Katherine come too, to see her nightlight that projected stars on the ceiling. As Katherine admired the constellations, Emma asked sleepily, "Will you come back tomorrow?" Katherine glanced at me, uncertain. "We'll see, sweetheart," I answered for her. Ms. Chen is very busy. Katherine, she corrected softly. She can call me Katherine. After Emma fell asleep, we returned to the living room, the air between us charged with unspoken possibilities. She's remarkable, Katherine said. You're doing an amazing job with her. I'm trying, I admitted. Some days are better than others. Katherine nodded toward the proposal on the coffee table. You don't have to decide now. Take time to think about it. And the other part? I asked, finding courage I didn't know I had. The part about you not being here as my former boss? She met my gaze steadily, vulnerability and strength somehow coexisting in her expression. That part doesn't come with a formal proposal. That part is just me, taking a chance on something that matters. I stepped closer to her. I thought about you too, you know. Those late-night calls, they kept me going through some of the darkest days. I almost told you, that day in my office when you resigned, she confessed. But I couldn't make your decision more complicated than it already was. Emma had to come first. She always will, I said. I would never ask for anything different. Catherine's voice was soft but certain. I admire that about you, Daniel. Your priorities are exactly where they should be. I reached for her hand, and she let me take it, her fingers cool against my palm. What happens now? I asked. That depends, she said. On what you want, on what Emma needs, on whether you think there's room in your life for this. For us. Whatever that might look like. I don't know what it would look like, I admitted. I just know that when you showed up at my door tonight, it felt like something impossible suddenly became possible. Katherine smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes and made her look younger, lighter. I built a company by turning impossible ideas into reality. Maybe we could figure this one out too. One step at a time? I suggested. She nodded. Starting with dinner tomorrow night? I know a place with excellent mac and cheese that Emma might approve of. She has very high standards for mac and cheese, I warned, smiling. I'm not afraid of high standards, Katherine replied, and we both laughed, recognizing the understatement. As I walked her to the door, the rain had stopped, leaving the night clear and star-filled. She paused on the threshold, turning back to me. Thank you, she said simply. For what? For opening the door. For the hot chocolate. For making me brave enough to show up here tonight. I didn't plan what happened next. I simply leaned forward and kissed her, softly and briefly, a promise of possibilities rather than a demand. When I pulled back, her eyes remained closed for a moment longer, and when she opened them, I saw in them the same hope I felt expanding in my chest. Good night, Daniel, she whispered. Good night, Katherine. As I watched her walk to her car, I realized that sometimes life's greatest gifts come disguised as its greatest challenges. 6 months ago, I thought my world had ended when Lisa walked out. Tonight, standing in my doorway watching Katherine drive away with the promise of tomorrow's dinner hanging between us, I understood that endings are sometimes just beginnings in disguise. The journey ahead wouldn't be simple. There would be complications, adjustments, moments of doubt. But for the first time since becoming a single father, I felt something beyond determination and duty. I felt hope. Hope that Emma and I weren't facing the future alone. Hope that love could find us even when we weren't looking for it. And it all began with a doorbell at 8:17 p.m. and the words I never expected to hear. I accepted your resignation letter, but I never accepted losing you from my life. 6 months later, Emma and I moved into a house with a backyard where she could play. Katherine didn't move in, we all agreed that would be too much, too soon, but she had her own key and spent most weekends with us. Emma's nightmares became less frequent, and when they did come, she sometimes asked for Kat instead of me, because Katherine was better at doing the monster-chasing voices. I took the remote work program director position, working from my home office while developing policies that helped dozens of other Horizon employees balance their family responsibilities with their careers. The program became so successful that other companies began adopting our model. Katherine remained CEO, still demanding excellence but now also demanding balance. She instituted company-wide policies about after-hours emails and created a daycare center in the Horizon building. Family comes first became more than just words, it became the foundation of the company culture. One evening, as the three of us sat on the porch swing watching the sunset, Emma nestled between us with a book about stars. Katherine turned to me with that look in her eyes, the one that still made my heart skip after all these months. "You know," she said quietly, "I used to think success meant building something that would outlast me. A company, a legacy, a mark on the world. And now?" I asked, watching as Emma traced constellations with her small finger. Katherine smiled, reaching across to take my hand. "Now I know that the most important things we build aren't made of code or contracts. They're made of moments like this." Emma looked up then, her eyes bright with the simple wisdom of childhood. "Are we a family now?" she asked. Katherine and I exchanged glances over her head, a world of unspoken understanding passing between us. "What do you think, sweetheart?" I asked Emma. She considered this with adorable seriousness before nodding decisively. "Yes. Families love each other and take care of each other. That's what we do." "That's exactly what we do," Katherine agreed, her voice thick with emotion. Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Katherine and I stood in the kitchen, her head resting against my shoulder as I held her close. "I never planned for this," she confessed. "In all my 5-year strategies and growth projections, I never accounted for falling in love with a single dad and his amazing daughter. The best things in life can't be planned," I said, thinking of that rainy night when she showed up at my door, taking the biggest risk of her life. "Sometimes they just show up unexpectedly and change everything." She looked up at me, this brilliant, powerful woman who had somehow found room in her carefully constructed life for our messy, beautiful reality. "I'm glad I had the courage to show up that night." "So am I," I whispered, kissing her softly. "So am I. Life doesn't always give us what we expect. Sometimes it takes away what we thought we needed and replaces it with what we never knew we wanted. Sometimes the door that closes is just making way for another one to open. And sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings start with words whispered on a doorstep in the rain. I accepted you quitting the job, but not my heart." If you've been moved by Daniel, Katherine, and Emma's journey, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us all that second chances and unexpected love can find us when we least expect it. Remember, family isn't always what we're born into.